My next guest remained undefeated this past weekend, picking up a unanimous decision at SHP 56 in Alabama, of all places. It is Zack Powell joining me here on the program. Zack, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
I'm doing well, but I did not remain undefeated on the weekend. Actually, I guess I still am undefeated. I've never fought before, but congratulations, man. I wanted to start first with, how does a guy like you from Quebec end up fighting in Alabama, of all places?
It's all because of amazing management. I'm part of the Canadian roster of the Dodge Sports team. So, like, there's me, Aaron Jeffrey, Anthony Romero, and Jasmine. So, like, we have a pretty good team going, and we're able to get a lot of fights right now, despite the pandemic.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that you were rep by Matt, which is great because Aaron's fighting for LFA this week, and then you've got obviously Jazz had that fight for CFFC. So if anyone's out there, if you're Canadian, definitely link up with Matt because this guy has connections in the U.S. because you just don't see Canadian regional fighters getting opportunities like this in the States. And I'm sure we'll get into this later in the interview, but like Canada right now, there's not a lot going on right now because of the pandemic and all that. So that's really good you got this opportunity. How was it getting to go down there and compete, and also with the travel and stuff with COVID? How did everything go just leading into the fight?
It was amazing. Like, despite the day of travel, which the day of travel was horrible. Missed the first flight because for some reason Toronto Airport security opened at 6:30 a.m. and their flight was at 7:05 a.m. And I was there since 4 a.m. and passed through customs, and then they sent us to secondary customs because they thought I needed a P1 visa to compete. But I was basically breaking even to go fight, so I didn't need one, and they figured that out and missed our first flight. So 4 hours of traveling turned into 13 hours. And but other than that, it was amazing. The promotion was good. They were very good to me, and Alabama was a very nice place, and I'd be glad to go back. I'm actually going back for the next show to corner some of our amateur fighters that we're going to get on that show.
That's awesome. So when did you actually land in Alabama? Like I'm assuming, like you said, fight was on the weekend. So when did you actually get there? Because that would suck if you had this long travel time and then you got to fight in like 48 hours.
Yeah. So fight was on a Saturday. I landed there on the Wednesday.
So you had some time. So that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah, because I can only imagine you're probably flustered from the traveling, and then you got to go fight. That's pretty crazy. What was the game plan heading into the fight? Because I know in the regional scene it's really tough to find footage. So oftentimes you're probably worried more about what you can bring to the table than your opponent.
Yeah, so we found a lot of footage about my opponent. He had 7 fights, so we found every fight except one. And basically the game plan was to just bring the fight wherever I wanted to. And basically set up the strikes with the takedowns. So hide the strikes with my takedowns and then hide the takedowns with my strikes. So just mixing it up on that, and it worked very well during the weekend.
Anything surprised you about him as an opponent?
How big he was actually crazy. So Alabama has a weigh-in on the day of the fights as well, where supposedly you can't be 15% over your weigh-in weight. And he weighed in, I think, 17% over his weigh-in weight, and they said it's only a suggestion. We don't really follow it. So, yeah, he weighed in at 162. We received 3 calls that day saying he wanted, a call the day before and 2 calls a day of weigh-ins saying, hey, can we up the weight to 165? He's not going to be able to make weight. He's, pissing blood, and, so he got down to 162. And we said no to up the weight, but he made weight. We had a 2-pound weight allowance because Alabama uses a home scale and not an actual scale. And got back at 188 the day after for the fight. So that was a little crazy. It was pretty big.
That's nuts. Okay, well, yeah, and granted, if this was the other way around, I'm sure you wouldn't have got as much leeway. So, just saying, that's regional MMA for you when you're going into someone's backyard. Now, so you get your hand raised. Obviously, another great win for you. How do you celebrate after a win like that? I know a lot of stuff's closed, but you're in Alabama. That must be pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was in Alabama. Basically, we fought at 11 p.m. and our departing flight was at 6 a.m. to come back.
Gotcha.
So we just pulled an all-nighter, me, Chris, and Kevin, and drank a little bit and had some good food and just went out with people from the promotion over there because the COVID rules are less strict, so bars are open and stuff is happening. And they were all very nice to us, and we didn't pay a single drink or a single piece of food. Everything was paid for, and they were very amazing to us.
Well, that's great. Glad to hear it was a good experience, on the regional scene. So, like I said, you're undefeated 4-0. First time you and I've had a chance to talk. Where did this journey start for you? How did you initially get involved in combat sports?
So when I was about 15, I made the switch from competitive hockey. I was playing at a probably junior A level out in Ontario, equivalent to junior AAA in Quebec, because I'm originally from Quebec. And I made the switch to MMA and fell in love with it right away. I couldn't fight until I was 18 because what was happening with amateur MMA at the time.
That's right, in Ontario. I lived all through that when I lived in Toronto. I remember how dumb that was, how they banned that, right? So
yeah. So for 3 years, I was like getting jits competitions in and like just getting ready to fight because that's what I actually wanted to do. And 2 days after my 18th birthday, I had my first fight, amateur fight, and I was in love. Like I knew I wanted to do this for a living. And fast forward to like 6 years later, and here I am, and it's going very good.
What made you decide to leave hockey?
Honestly, like I think it's a very like clique-ish kind of sport at a young age. Like if you're not part of like the gang, you won't get anywhere. And I got like played around with it a little bit. I think I was a good hockey player and like maybe could have went places, but also I was like, I'm 5'10", so like it's very hard for a guy like me to make it somewhere with the style I have. Like I was 5'10" when I was like 13, right? So I was a grinder and I was like a very physical player, but like at 15, 16, all the guys like grow, and I didn't grow at all. So
okay,
just started to go in another direction.
No, that makes sense. Were you ever drafted to the junior leagues at all? You mentioned you played AAA, but did you ever actually get a draft selection or no?
So I wasn't drafted, but I did a few QM-GHL camps. I did 2.
Nice. Which teams? I'm a hockey fan, so you kind of piqued my interest here a little bit. Rimouski?
Really? Yes. No, Drummondville and Victoriaville.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We gotta. Yeah, we'll talk a little hockey at the end, though. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. So yeah, you make the transition to MMA. Where did you first start training? Like, what gym sort of got you started? And 2-part question to this: when did you know this was something you wanted to pursue as a career?
Perfect. So I started at it's called Evolution BJJ. So when I'm back home, I still train there. I just recently moved to Niagara Top Team like during the pandemic, like 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. I started at Evolution BJJ, trained out there for the past like 7 years and a half. And at some point we were affiliated with TriStar, so I spent a good amount of time at TriStar as well, learning from Firas over there and getting to train with all the guys over there who are amazing.
Okay.
And then second part of the question, I'd say the first day in the gym, like...
Yeah, you're like, this feels right. Better than hockey. Much better than hockey, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like you're more in control of like your future in this sport than like even if you have very little control over it. But like you have a little bit more control over your performance and the outcome. You know, you don't have a team to rely on. Like it's you, and that's basically it. Like corners and surrounding is very important, but like you can be outgoing and find that without being part of a clique and like having other people's like lead you down a bad road. So that I like a lot. And like I said today, I'm like, okay, like I want to make a career out of this. Was my first amateur fight. Like after the fight,
you knew right away, yeah, by the sounds of it. Okay, well that's cool. Now, were you a MMA fan when you started training, or did that come after?
I was an MMA fan like at the age of 13. I remember my aunt had a boyfriend at the time that we would like grapple in his basement and like watch UFCs. And I remember watching UFC 100. And I'm like, wow, like this is amazing. I was a big GSP fan and like since the age of 13. So I've been following MMA for 10 years now.
Very cool. Okay, yeah, I'm curious because believe it or not, I do interact with fighters or interview fighters that like don't watch fights at all, and they're just like, oh, I love training and this is just what I like doing. So always have to throw that question in. Always want to see if that's interesting. What was the connection to the Niagara Top Team as far as you training down there?
So what happened is that Romero was getting ready for Contender Series.
That's right.
And Matt asked me, hey, like, are you willing to go down there to give him a few rounds and help him out a little bit? And I've been looking for a place to switch up camps for a while now, not because it was bad back home. It's just I feel like there's a lot of things I need to work on and I need more bodies. And as soon as I came here, like there's so many good 155ers. I think like there's the cross training as well that's happening. So like I think all the best 155ers in Canada are here almost. Like we're not missing much of them. And then coaching like I'm feeling like leaps and bounds in my wrestling when it comes to working with Chris. And for striking, like there's Lyndon Whitlock that's there, and Matt.
He's a great coach, by the way. Anytime I'm in an interview, I want to praise that guy because the work he's done with some of the guys. He's a good fighter too, but to see what he's done with coaching has been really cool to see the transition he's made.
Oh yeah, he's so good. He's such a technical guy, and he has like such a good outview on the game. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Now, do you get down to Parabellum then? I guess if you mentioned Lyndon there, right?
Lyndon, I would do like privates with Lyndon. Sometimes it comes down to Niagara. Sometimes we go to the unknown location.
Right, of course. Government Trudeau might be watching us, right? We don't want to get in trouble for all the COVID stuff. Okay, that makes sense. And then the other thing I was going to ask you as well is, do you have like a day job on top of fighting? Because I know obviously this isn't paying all your bills right now.
So far I'm like getting by with just fighting and doing privates, and I put a lot of money aside in the past like 2 years. So I'd say like since 2019, end of 2019, beginning of this year, I've been able to do this full time and get by. Like I cut all my expenses, and like basically I could live off like $700 a month right now. So it's not so hard to get by just doing privates and fighting.
Good for you, man. Yeah, and go all in on this, right? And then you got no regrets. It's not like you're, trying to balance and juggle things at once, so you can really get a good kind of idea of where your career's headed. Well, it's worked out for you, 4-0. I know it's been difficult for not just you, but a lot of Canadian fighters on the regional scene of getting fights. I did notice prior to Saturday, your last fight, I think, was December of 2018. How difficult have things been over the last 2 years?
So before this fight, I actually fought in March at Prospect.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I think they just didn't update the Tapology page. They still haven't put the result for last fight, so it looks like my last fight was before that was 2018. Okay. It hasn't been so hard. I'd say like 2019, I had a lot of offers. It's just I got injured pretty bad that year. I had a concussion and a little bit like post-concussion syndrome because I didn't deal with it. Because like my first pro fights, I fought concussed. I got knocked out in the gym and didn't pull out of the fight, and then took a fight right away after and kept training. And like in January, my head just gave up, and I was out for like, I'd say 7 months. And then we managed to book a fight in March. And like even now, like I already got like a few offers on the table. A little crazy one came in yesterday. We had to say no because it's so early, but it's a crazy offer. I never thought I'd be offered a fight like that. But if not, we're looking at December right now for a good fight.
Well, you mentioned, and then there's also SHP. I'm sure they're happy with you as well. So yeah, December sort of the time you want to fight. Any promotion? Because I mean, you're a free agent right now. You can sort of sign with whoever.
Yeah, I don't know who the promotion is. I just have the date. So it's part of like the B2 Digital guys. They run a lot of shows. They ran Strike Hard. They have their own little thing going. They have like I think 50 shows in the next 50 weeks that are booked. So like it's a good connection to have right now with the very little fights going on. So I know it's December 12th, and I know it's near Chicago. And basically right now, all that's happening is that Matt is discussing pay and travel arrangement. And I already said yes to the matchup, and I think the other guy said yes as well.
That's good, and you got lots of time too, right? So to prep for this fight, with it being in December, we're in October right now, so it's a lot of time. Just no Halloween candy, or maybe you can get a little bit in there, right? So.
Yeah, my weight's low, so if I keep it low, I'll be fine.
Yeah, just have a little bit of candy there. And you said you have an opponent lined up, or you guys are still finalizing that? So
we have one.
But it's probably top secret, right? Yeah, exactly. We don't want to get anyone in trouble here. I know Matt quite well. I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers here. So we'll definitely do an interview, closer to December before that fight. But also wanted to ask you, in terms of your career, I mean, you got a good record. The type of record that gets you on like a Dana White's Contender Series, they're starting it up again here in November. If all goes well, I'm assuming here, that's sort of what you're looking at next, or do you think you could potentially even get a call to the UFC? Because we've seen some guys with just a couple fights, like a Randy Costa, just get that, that contract right away.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking for. Like, I'm pushing for Contender Series. What we received as a message that all the fights for the November shows are already booked. We were pushing to fight Sherrard Blackledge.
Oh yeah, who fought recently? Yeah,
and they announced his matchup yesterday. But from what I heard, Chris Lytle is involved with Strike Hard Production, and he was in talks with Sean Shelby, and Sean Shelby saw my fight. He knows who I am. Contender Series might be an option, And like I told my manager, Matt, told him like if someone gets injured at a 55 fight, like we're good to take it. Like my weight's going to be low. I'm going to be ready to take it. So like I'm staying ready for a contender series shot. But as for like, I'm not avoiding other options either, you know, for like a fight. And then like straight into the UFC, like man, I wish. But I doubt that they'll pick up a 155 4-0 because 155 is like
pretty deep. Yeah, no, fair enough. I like the realistic honesty in that, you know, in terms of, you know, the landscape of the sport right now. It is one of their deepest divisions there. What's it like being a part of this Niagara top team? Which, I mean, right now you guys are hot. I mean, Romero won his fight on Contender, so you should have got the contract. I've done a million videos on that of why they missed the boat on that. Aaron Jeffrey's another guy who's got to be there, especially if he wins on an LFA coming up here this week. If he wins, he's got to be a shoo-in with the guy. I mean, he lost to Brendan Allen on Contender Series. Brendan, as far as I know, has not lost a fight in the UFC yet. So, you know, that doesn't look bad. And even Jazz, I mean, she lost one fight, you know, still a good record, but I imagine, and, you know, taking that experience to her next fight. So what's it, I guess the question I'm getting at here as I'm rambling on is, what's it like being part of this, you know, really a big up and coming team in Canada that seems to be really making waves, not only just in Canada, but on the regional scene in general?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like to be honest, like we've got, four guys, well, including girls with Jazz, that are just like UFC bound in the next like year or 2 years, which is pretty crazy. And like that's all it takes to get a super team going. And I feel like we already like kind of have one going. It's just not known worldwide. But, like four of us in the UFC, like we're all roommates now except Romero. Romero doesn't live with us. But, like I live with Chris, AJ, Jazz. And just being in the UFC, like we could probably have our own spots and probably do much better.
Is Vlad like the unofficial roommate there? Because I know Vlad's you know, likes to hang out with Aaron all the time.
Yeah, Vlad travels a lot.
But he's doing all that stuff for the UFC right now. I see him on Instagram. He's on I think he's on Yas Island right now. Isn't he doing commentary?
Yeah, he's on Yas Island doing commentary, just having so much fun over there, training with the dudes over there. He's getting like to train with so many good people. That's so cool for him. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, Vlad's awesome, and yeah, just can't say enough good things about that guy as well. Before we go, you did mention hockey. Do you still watch hockey at all, or is that one of those things where it's like, after I left hockey, I'm totally done with that sport?
I still follow it. I'm not a big fan of watching sports on TV other than fighting and the occasional basketball game.
Okay.
But yeah, still follow hockey quite a bit.
Are you now? Who's your team? Because you're from Gatineau, right? So to think the Senators, or are you a Habs fan?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say now Habs fan, but like growing up, because I was a big Ovechkin fan, I was always
the Capitals. Nice. I love Ovechkin. He's like one of my favorite players. I live in Vancouver. I'm a Canucks fan, but Ovechkin's at the top of my list as far as like must-see TV. So I can understand where you're coming from there. So now, are you like watching any Netflix? Are you playing any video games? What does downtime look like on top of training?
Video games, reading, a little bit of Netflix, not too much. And also video games, not too much. I tried to limit that stuff, but I'm reading a lot about sports psychology, philosophy, and just trying to know a little bit more things about life because there's so much things to learn.
There certainly is. Got to ask what video games you're playing right now. Are you Call of Duty or Fortnite, or what are you getting into?
Well, after this video, I just downloaded this game. I'm not sure if I can flip my camera.
Oh, you might be able to. We'll try and make it work here. Oh, Horizon?
Yeah, I just downloaded that. So like I'm quarantining for the next few days, so I'm just gonna try out this game and maybe NHL when it comes out in a few days.
Awesome. Well, Zach, congratulations on the win. It was great getting a chance to talk to you. We'll definitely link up closer to fight time in December, before your next fight. If there's anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media you want to plug, the floor is yours, man.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me. Shout out to Matt Dodge, my team out at Niagara Top Team. My sponsors, there's Virus Clothing, Emlo Shoes, Jock Farm, Cynical Sons, Miami Mixed Media, Buckingham Hyundai, and my teammates, my family, everyone else there supporting me on this journey. And that's pretty much it. If you want to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Powell MMA, and my Twitter is PowPow MMA.